Hello, everyone, and welcome to MarketBeat Monday. We are so glad that you could join us today. If you are new to the show and you've not been here for a live stream before, we are doing a cold look at all the stocks you put in the chat. So if you're looking for a video with lots of prepared conversation on specific stocks, this is not that video. This is a video about what you want to talk about. It's all about interacting with you and letting me know what you want to talk about in the chat today. So our MarketBeat analysts, Chris Markoch and Thomas Hughes, are with us for MarketBeat Monday as always. They're going to give a cold look to the stocks that you want to talk about in the chat and give just a real-time quick analysis of the different stocks that you want to talk about. So Chris, Thomas, thank you so much for being here today. We have a lot to talk about in the market, ending on a high on Friday, coming back with kind of a rocky start to Monday. We'll get into that in just a minute. But first, it's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. That is how our chat started today. The Hang Dude reminded me it's Star Wars Day. I don't know if either of you are big Star Wars buffs, but I want to start out by talking about Disney. How about you guys? Are you guys Star Wars people?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Big fan. So let's talk about what's happening with Disney stock, just as in honor of Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. It looks like they had a beat last time, and earnings is coming up this week. Thomas, what do you think about the chart for Disney?
Well, Disney has been stuck at this bottom, consolidating for a long time. Bob Iger kind of got the company turned back around, and we've been showing traction, but it hasn't really shown up in the stock price yet. We may see some of that start, happening this week with another good report. I think it'll be pretty decent. There certainly are some headwinds for the company, but consumer trends seem to be pretty strong. Disney certainly is a magical place to go. There's lots of reasons for people to go back to it. So, I mean, it should be a decent report. They've also had some good news with some of their other segments. I think they changed their plans with ESPN, so we may get some news about that as well. But anything that points to growth and profits, and it will be good for the stock price.
All right, Chris, how about you? Any of your thoughts on Disney? I think we've done a video maybe almost a year ago talking about Disney's ups and downs. It's been kind of a bumpy road the last year or two for Disney. Where are you long term on Disney, Chris?
Yeah, I'm still in the show me camp. I think it's one of those things where this is one of those things where the theme park is different than the stock. I agree with Thomas. It's a magical place. It's a great place to go. It's an expensive place to go. And I think I think that might be something that might be affecting the company right now. But to me, it's just the stock's not that exciting right now. Right now, they're talking about maybe 9% earnings growth this year. Okay, maybe they'll do better than that. If they do, I might start getting a little bit more interested. But right now, the stock's kind of just meh to me. It's not bad. It's just not magical.
Yeah, it's not so magical. I will say that I do think that the career I missed out on is being a Disney princess. I love kids, and I think I would have been a great Disney princess, but alas, I am a stock princess. That's what we talk about now. It's just stocks. So let's get into what's actually happening in the market today, guys. We have a little bit of a mixed bag when we look at the heat map. You've got red and green. Again, mixed everywhere. Some stocks, Oracle up almost 5, MU up about 5% today. Other stocks definitely in the red today. Let's talk about what's leading the market and moving the market today.
Well, it seemed like a fairly mixed day. I think blue chips, the industrials, and small caps kind of led. Tech seemed to be the winner. It still pulled back, but it was the laggard as far as the pullback goes. But still just a kind of a general pullback. Everything seems to be moving sideways, kind of consolidating near its recent highs. So to me, not really a bad day, especially with some of the catalysts that we have coming up.
Yeah, anything to say about what happened with the Iran conflict, the war news today? Again, that was a little bit of a market mover today, but it feels like maybe, Chris, investors were getting a little bit tired of the ups and downs of that conflict news.
Well, yeah, I mean, the market, the headlines say that one of the reasons the market was down a little bit today was because of the news from Iran. I'm not saying the investors are looking through it, but I think there's a lot of noise. I don't know how much of it is actually news anymore. And I say that not trying to joke about it, because there are human lives in danger and everything, but it's just right now we get reports of something, and then we get something 5 minutes later that says that's not really true. And it's just hard to discern right now what is actually the truth. And the truth is somewhere in between the two extremes. It's hard to figure out what is true.
Right. Like Chris is saying, the market is just kind of getting tired of it. And we were joking before, it's just a re-escalation of the de-escalated escalation. It's like it's going to go back tomorrow and it'll go back the next day. It'll flip-flop again and again and again. Maybe it gets resolved, hopefully real soon. But yeah, the market is really trying to look past it.
Yeah, and in the meantime, all of those ups and downs and headlines come about, but investors like us, retail investors, are still trying to figure out what should we invest in now despite all the noise happening out there. And that is what we are going to dive into with some of these stocks. I want to start out by talking about we have a big earnings that we are following right now. A lot of retail investors own some Palantir. And Chris, I know this is one of your favorites to follow. Earnings is coming up just in the next few minutes.
Yeah, they're not out yet from what I can see, but they are expected to be out today. I'm expecting that the report's going to be fine. It'll depend on what happens with the stock. Last time they reported, they had a great report, and the stock went down a little bit in the days afterwards. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if the same thing happened. The stock's been rallying in the last few days, so it's possible that you might get a little bit of a pullback. But we'd have to see.
Yeah, and we will check back in with that. Again, there's not going to be a ton of movement happening yet until those results are out. So a little bit later on in our hour-long show, we're going to check in to see what Palantir is doing once those earnings do drop in the next few minutes here. Another one that we're watching this week is AMD. Thomas, this is one of your favorite stocks. Talk about how big of a deal you think AMD's report tomorrow is going to be.
I think AMD's report could be a trigger for the entire AI complex. If you think about the AI trade being constrained by NVIDIA's capacity to deliver GPUs, AMD is going to give us some news about its upcoming MI450 launch, which is going to really increase capacity. It'll help unleash the data center build out. And at the same time, we have the evolution of the build up that's underway. We look at Intel's results. They showed some real strength with the CPUs, which is needed for inferencing and for linking all these GPUs together. We're also going to see some of that strength in AMD's results. I think what we're really going to see is an affirmation of multiple tailwinds coming into play, which is industrial and AI and data center and inferencing, and also some edge computing tailwinds all coming together, bolstering this outlook and driving this market to new highs. The chart action right now is really fantastically bullish. We do have some pullback today, but this is just a market that's consolidating and taking profits after its huge run up. Assuming we get another good report, it's just going to affirm this robust outlook that we've been talking about for months now, and possibly increase it. And right now, it's just a matter of time. We're like on the edge of our seats waiting for it to happen. If we do get a bad report, something in the report is amiss, don't be shocked to see the stock price pull back pretty hard, probably all the way back to 250 or lower, which would be a really big disappointment. But I don't think that that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my follow-up questions concise. I have lots, but I know one of the things you've been looking forward to with AMD is this new product launch that they're having. That's not going to come in yet this quarter, right?
No, it's not supposed to start until the first part of the next quarter. But I do think that we're going to see some news about it that would include possible deals or orders or just an indication for demand. In all that, we'll probably get a guidance increase. Lisa Su has been pretty notorious for giving cautionary guidance, but she tends to increase it pretty substantially each quarter as the AI trade's been evolving. I think we're going to get another substantial guidance increase this time as well.
All right, one more question before we move on. We talked about AMD. You mentioned Intel, and I have the chart, so I wanted to bring it up. Do you think for those looking at Intel at one point last week was up over 130% in a month? It has pulled back some since then. Do you think that Intel is going to continue to pull back a little bit more, or are investors going to be chasing Intel if they're looking at actually buying into it right now? What's your take on this rapid price increase for Intel?
Well, because of the price increase, the market certainly is in a position to pull back more than it has. I don't think that it's going to pull back substantially, give up 50% or more of this move. The candles are very strong with the accelerating candles, accelerating volume, accelerating momentum. I would say that this market is just getting started. So any pullback that we get is likely to be met by buyers. In the event that we get a deeper pullback than what we've had, we just want to wait for the market to start showing its support and start showing signs of the ensuing rebound before we start getting back into the market. But once that rebound starts happening, I would expect the momentum to be pretty strong and carry it back to new highs.
All right, very good. One other thing to talk about, and no one's asked about this in the chat yet. I was expecting someone to want to talk about it, but maybe we don't have a lot of meme stock people out in the audience today. Wondering about this GME story, Chris. Let's just talk about what is happening. Once you heard about GameStop and this eBay bid that they had, the stock down almost 9% today. What's your take on any investor maybe getting involved in this?
Do so at your own risk. To me, this is it's an interesting move by GameStop, and I kind of understand maybe why they're doing it. But I think Thomas made the point before we got on, Bridget, that I'm not necessarily sure why eBay would want to do it. And if you're an investor, I'm not really sure what this means to you. To me, this screams of dilution for the stock. Again, I kind of understand why GameStop's trying to do it, and I suppose it's good that they're planting a flag somewhere and saying we're going to try to do this. But I think this is very much a do so at your own risk as far as getting involved.
And just a quick look at some of the stats for GME. For short interest to only be 15% is actually lower than I would have thought for a stock like GME. That's very much just a trader's dream of a stock. Thomas, any quick thoughts from you on GME, or is that enough GME discussion for the day?
Yeah, I think it's a very bold swing for the fences move. It certainly gets GameStop in the news. I kind of agree with what the general consensus is among the analysts, which is that it's really unlikely to happen. First, GameStop has this really complicated financing scheme, lots of dilution, lots of debt. The deal has to be accepted by eBay, and then there's the execution risk. I think that I think eBay's execs would be pretty foolish to accept this deal because they don't really get anything out of it, especially considering that their own rebound is kind of gaining traction, their own recovery is gaining traction. I think they're the real winners in this no matter what, because they're getting all this publicity. And so a lot of investors are going to look and see that eBay is doing better than it has been doing. You look at the stock price action, you can see that it was really gearing up for a breakout even before the GameStop news came out. It moved to a new high today and was able to sustain it, I say, under its own merit, because it was already rallying, already in recovery mode. So I think this is just going to be an amplification for eBay's market in the long run. This stock will probably keep running higher. I think GameStop stock is going to continue to do what it's been doing, which is just moving sideways until we come up with the next thing to talk about.
Yeah, good point. I think it's great to even look at eBay in this one. I didn't have that one pulled up until the end here. So thanks for covering that, guys. All right, let's get into some of the stocks that people in the chat want to talk about today. We have somebody watching from Montreal who's from France. Glad to have you here for one of the first times. He wants to talk about NBIS. We haven't talked about it in a little while. It's one of the stocks that's done really well for some investors. So let's take a look at an update on what's going on with that one. Thomas, Chris, I want you to start us off with a duo here. We had early on, some people joined us early asking about some biotechs. Let's talk about ABEO and ZBIO, two different small biotech stocks. Chris, why don't you take us off with those right away?
So yeah, these are two clinical stage biotechs. Basically, Bridget, how I will say this is, investors kind of have a binary choice here. ABEO is one where it looks pretty promising that they're going to get their drug across the finish line, and they've got enough cash to do it, it seems like. The question here is whether or not the drug has enough of an addressable market that it's going to make a big deal for the stock. That's the issue there. The issue with Zenus, which is ZBIO, is it's a little bit more in question as far as whether or not they're going to be able to get their drug across the line. But it's a drug they have one drug that's treating MS, and that's very promising for them. So really, you're looking at two stocks. It just depends on, kind of what your flavor is. They're both considered high-risk stocks. Both have high short interest, low institutional ownership. Same story we've talked about a lot on the channel. I think it's just really picking your what you think might happen as far as the FDA approval, and then what is the market beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's great to look at these. The one other thing, I think the reason why these come up often on questions for people, one,
Right.
you may be like biotech, but also when you look at these analyst forecasts for these stocks, it's kind of hard to ignore. You look at one, I think had a 200% price target on it from
Right.
yeah, Zenus is at 105% upside, and you look at ABEO, and that upside, I believe, is like 219% with some of these price targets that are way higher than where the
Right.
stock is today. What do you think those analyst estimates are based on? And when it comes to biotechs, especially small companies, clinical stage like these are, how much weight do you put into what those analysts have to say?
Well, in this case, the analyst targets are going to be based on the idea that they believe that the drugs are going to get to commercial stage and that the company is going to be able to scale them. Because right now, both of these companies are essentially pre-revenue. If they are making any revenue, they're making very little revenue and they're not profitable. So, what ultimately you're going to need to see earnings growth to support a stock price increase, and that's what you're seeing here. It's enthusiasm, and from what I've seen briefly, both companies look like they have a good chance of getting their drugs across the finish line, but there's no guarantee to that, and there's always the risk that there could be some sort of sidetrack that gets going on. But right now, from what I've seen, that's really the story between the two. One, ABEO looks like it's going to get the drug approved, but there's a question about how big the addressable market is. The other one has a big addressable market, but there's maybe a little bit more question about whether or not it's going to be able to get across.
Yeah, one quick point from somebody in the comments right now. Jan
Yeah.
Phillips says ABEO is at the commercial stage right now. So again, this is a cold look at some of these
Okay.
stocks, but do you see that there is some commercial work going on?
I didn't see it. That doesn't mean that it's not happening. It's just not something I saw. It looks like late last year. Now it looks like late last year they did announce the first commercial patient treatment with their FDA approved drug. So yes, they are. I'm not seeing in their earnings yet. Let's put it that way. They've very very little earnings. Revenue about $3 million last quarter. So.
Yeah, Thomas, what were you going to say?
Just that I see that there says their first commercial patient was treated in December 2025. So yeah, I think this is it's a very niche product with a very small addressable market right now.
Yeah, biotechs are always an interesting one and always great names to bring up in the chat. We see a lot of these kinds of names on MarketBeat Mondays. So if you like these kinds of stocks, you're going to see more of them on MarketBeat Mondays. We're glad that you're here with us today. If you have not subscribed to the channel yet, this is your chance to do so. I want to see if I can get that commercial up really quick. Just hit like on the side of this. It helps us out a ton. If you're not a subscriber to MarketBeat yet, you can scan this QR code really quick and subscribe to our main channel. It helps us do these MarketBeat Monday shows for free for you guys every week and really just talk about what you want to talk about. That's what these shows are for, and we are so glad that you are here to join us. Let's move on, Chris, to the next ones that I'm going to have you look up before we get to Thomas here. We're going to look at ALB and MP together. We had somebody ask about MP, and early on we had someone ask about ALB. So look at those two, and then Thomas, let's move on to NBIS. Anything happening with that one?
Well, yeah, this one's moving up on a convergence of factors. We've just got underlying data center demand and its growth outlook. Also, the rising cost of GPU rental space. So whatever capacity it has, it's getting premium prices for. That's really juicing the outlook, both for revenue and for profits. At the same time, we've got some acquisitions that are kind of cementing its position, not only as a GPU infrastructure provider, but more of a developer services provider and a full stack AI infrastructure provider. And then on top of all that, we got a high short interest. So this stock is edging higher on a lot of positive factors, helping the shorts who are still probably selling into the rally, but also covering at the same time. That's just going to keep this market moving higher until we get to some kind of an extreme level, which really I don't see yet. Momentum is converging with the highs. Stochastic has reached oversold levels, but it's really early in the movement. It can stay that way for several more months before we really get too high. So with earnings expected next week and them expected to be pretty strong, what I see is this market extending its rally, probably gaining another $20, $30, $40 in the next couple of weeks to a few months.
Thomas, this one is such a huge move in a really short time frame for this stock. Again, up 114% in 3 months is big moves for Nebius. But you look at that earnings report, and it's not moving necessarily on earnings. So talk about that a little bit. There's another report coming up next week. Do we
Right.
expect to see this company moving towards profitability anytime soon?
Well, right. So this is all a story about swelling outlook and growing into its really robust backlog. Profitability is certainly in the future for this company, and right now all the news is just pointing to an accelerated timeline to that, which we think we'll see in the next week's report, and that's why the market's moving higher now. Just that improving anticipation for what we think is going to be really great results in the future.
All right, this is one of those names that it was the first one I added to my Bridget Spies watch list. It's done really well for the watch list as far as performance. It's up quite a bit. I think I added it in like mid-November, and so it's done well. It's on a nice rise. It would be great news for my little watch list portfolio if it continues to go up. Again, if you've not checked out Bridget Spies watch list, it's just marketbeat.com/Bridget. It's a chance to follow along with the stocks we talk about on MarketBeat all the time. Thomas, I'm going to have you look up. It sounds like Nokia is moving like crazy right now. I want to figure out why. So NOK, take a look at that one. Several people in the chat have mentioned that one, so you can take a look at that. Chris, let's talk about ALB and MP. What's going on there?
Yeah, so you're talking about two mining stocks, two different industries. Albemarle, we're talking about lithium. MP, we're talking about the rare earths. So Albemarle has had a nice run here lately. By the way, they both report earnings this week, and I think that's obviously one of the reasons why people are interested in it. Albemarle reports, I believe, Wednesday, and MP reports Thursday. So Albemarle's had a nice run. It's up 216% in the last year, 34% year to date. The company's gotten a lot of the bad news out of the way. They divested a major stake in one of their businesses. Lithium prices are back up. They've done a cost restructuring. So Albemarle's done a lot of that work, and investors have rewarded them for it. I think the question some investors are going to have right now going into earnings is whether or not that might already be priced into the stock. It did hit looks like an all-time high. Let's see here. No, not an all-time high, but it hit a 52-week high just last week. So that there's that question going in. How bullish are investors on the lithium case going forward? MP, this is rare earths. We've talked about the reasons why rare earths are being very popular right now. Department of War took a $400 million stake in the company. So it's kind of got a floor underneath it. The stock hasn't been doing quite as well. Well, it did about, I shouldn't say that, sorry. It has been doing well. It's about 164% in the last 12 months and 30% year to date again, but it's down significantly from where it was in mid-October. So I think investors are going to want to pay attention to what comes out of the news this week to see to see what their earnings reports say and to see if they think that the momentum can be sustained.
All right, that's a good look at those two stocks. I'm going to have you look up a gold miner. It looks like we haven't talked about one of those in a while. GORO. It sounds like they're a decent maybe profits or earnings coming in. I have to get back to what the commenter said, but take a look and tell me what you find out about that one.
What was the ticker again, Bridget?
GORO.
GORO. Okay.
Yes. All right. What's going on with Nokia? I'm excited to look at this chart. Is there some big movements today?
Well, it looks like it snapped a long-running uptrend, but this uptrend's still intact. Last week's move set a new high with elevated volume, set a new volume high. Momentum's convergent. So to me, this is just a natural market mechanic. This market's just taking some profits and cooling off for a bit. May pull back a little bit more, but I would expect to see new highs be set. And this is because of AI. Nokia is kind of emerging as critical to AI infrastructure with high speed connections and optics. So that's good news for the company. Certainly looks like a good uptrend. You're just going to want to wait for, see what prices are doing. They might pull back a little bit more. If they do, just wait for that bottom to be, revealed by the price action. But I think probably what will happen is more of a sideways action and then probably a continuation signal from there.
Yeah, Chris or Thomas, I'm just looking at some of the analyst estimates to see. Obviously, Nokia has been around for a long time. This is a name that
Right.
people have heard of for a while, but I'm wondering if analysts are catching up with the changing story of Nokia. And it looks like just in the last couple of weeks, we've got a $12.50 price target, a $13 price target, a $15 price target just last week. So it does look like they are moving
Right.
that target higher.
Right. So the market has advanced and is leading the consensus. So there is some downside indicated by consensus. But as you said, the trend is upward. The recent revisions have been very positive, leading to the high end range. Assuming that we see strong results in the upcoming quarters, that trend will probably continue and continue to support the market as it increases over time.
All right, awesome. Yeah, do you happen to know? Again, we're a cold look at these, so if you don't know, that's fine. But how is Nokia contributing to the AI story? That's one of the questions somebody asked in the chat. I think it's a great one. Exactly
Well,
how is it involved?
it's a lot of the connections inside the data centers. So Nokia is really critical for data transmissions. So been a big player in telecommunications. But now that's being focused on data centers. So they've got a lot of technology that's being used there, and they're coming up with new products to also enhance their offerings.
Okay, very good. You knew way more on that than I thought. That's awesome. Okay, let's look at a couple of different names here. I'm going to have you look at two this time as well, Thomas. Look at ATOS and ONDS. Ondas we talked about a few times recently, so we can just spend a little bit of time to see if there's an update there. And then OTOS is the other one. All right, Chris, what is going on with this gold mine? Anything interesting?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily know if I would say interesting, but certainly there's a risk reward scenario here. So what this company is, GORO is the ticker symbol, GORO. The company is called Gold Resource. They are a junior miner, and in the world of gold mining, junior miners are they amount to leveraged plays on the price of metals. When the price of gold, or in this case silver, actually is going up, these junior miners tend to outperform the large miners, but the situation is reversed when the price is reversed. And I say silver because although the company's name is Gold Resource, they are actually more of a silver play than they are a gold play, at least in the short term. So silver comprised about 80% of their revenue in the last quarter. So and the company anticipates that silver will be about 40% of their output from the one resource that they have in 2026.
Yeah, the regular chart isn't showing up for here, so we just have the smaller
Right.
one here. Looking at it, we've had some ups and downs, and I'm not sure if it follows kind of the broader silver market and gold market and what's happening there. Is this a big enough pullback for you to be interested in this right now, Chris?
I think there are so many more attractive plays if you're looking for gold miners. I think you can just play the regular miners. I'm not saying that junior miners aren't there. I think they should. I think if you're looking at gold and you're looking for something outside of owning the physical metal, I think there's a lot of mining plays to play from. This one, you might want to be careful about. There's other. You can look at the major miners right now. You can look at probably some other junior miners. This one, I'm not sure if I'd want to get much involved with.
All right, sounds good. It looks like somebody, Hangdu just said Palantir beat on earnings, revenue up 85% over the past year. So, Chris, take some time, dig into what happened with Palantir.
Oh, no, I've got it right here, Bridget.
You got it already. You've already been looking. Perfect.
No,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I had sent you a message. I thought you saw it, so I was hoping you saw it. Basically, they crushed it. They crushed the report. U.S. revenue was up 104% year over year, 19% quarter over quarter. They grew both their government and their commercial revenue. The government went up, looks like 84% year over year. U.S. commercial was 133% year over year. Overall revenue was up 95% year over year. closed 206 deals of at least $1 million. Rule of 40 score is at 145% right now. Beat on earnings by looks like about 5 cents. Beat on revenue, just a strong report all the way around, and they increased their guidance, their full year revenue guidance to 71% growth, which is 10% ahead of where their guidance was last quarter. So again, they crushed the report on all counts. Stock has bounced, got an initial bounce, but it's basically pulled back. It's basically trading flat from where it closed. But yeah, the report was they crushed it.
Yeah, I was just looking at extended trading. It doesn't look like it's doing much of anything yet. Anyway,
No.
we know this report did just drop.
Yeah.
So we'll see if there's any of those extended hour trading for Palantir.
Yeah.
Palantir
Plus
has
the call will probably do something too, because it's always
right. Right. Always get information. Again, I've got the chart pulled up here for Palantir. We can see it's been on a downtrend really for most of this year. So will be interesting to see if this report is enough to move the stock price at all. We'll continue to follow it. I actually wanted to preview really quick. I have Tom Nash, the ultimate Palantir bull, is going to be coming on the channel later this week to see how the market is reacting to Palantir earnings and kind of dive into it. So I'm excited. It's one of the first times collabing with him. So check back on the channel later this week. We'll have him on the show. Okay, Chris, somebody asked earlier on for an overview of Big Bear as well. So why don't you take a look at Big Bear AI to see how it might compare to what's happening with Palantir. Thomas, let's get over to the two stocks that you are covering. Let's do ATOS first.
Right, ATOS. This is an early stage clinical stage pharmacy company. They've got some potential catalysts coming up, but not a lot of real strength in the market. The thing that really stands out for me is this recent reverse stock split. Companies that reverse stock split tend to not do that well over time. And the market kind of looks kind of wanky right now. I would expect to see it moving lower without some really major, positive news to move it. As it stands, I don't think it's going to have any kind of news that's going to really invigorate an outlook for revenue or earnings. So regardless of what happens, I think this is going to be a risky play, and really to be careful with it.
Thomas, what do you think about that analyst forecast? That's wild to look at a $36 price target. One of the high targets on this one is $60. What do you think is behind that?
Right. So I think it might be a lot of hopes built into the potential for what their therapies are. There aren't a lot of ratings. 5 is, it's moderate number. The targets have come down a lot from the highs, though. If you look at the trends, the consensus price target is down like 70% in the last 12 months. Recent revisions are definitely in the low range. Still not a lot of coverage in general. So still some hope, still some possibility. But to me, it's a long shot, and there's more risk than there is potential reward, just given inherent risk in pharma companies in general.
Yeah. All right. A good quick look at ATOS. Let's look at Ondas. Totally switching gears here to a different story. Has anything happened since we last talked about Ondas? Is there any moves in the stock price?
The stock is still consolidating, kind of moving sideways. No real big news. But what I see here is just a market kind of strengthening and waiting for a next big catalyst to emerge. With this company, what we know is that the U.S. needs drones. They need drones to be made in the U.S. because China really controls a lot of supply chain. Honest is working really hard to make drones in the U.S. So these two things are kind of merging together, bolstering an outlook. Provided we see more news to affirm this outlook and to give us some evidence that they're following through on their strategy. I see the stock moving higher over time. Right now, we're still in an uptrend. Even with the volatility we've seen, we've got support at critical moving averages. All the moving averages are moving higher. So again, just need that catalyst to emerge. Could come with the next report. Could come with a news release, a new order. But I think it's coming down the pipe. When we get it, I think the real question will be, how high the stock moves, how long it takes to get to a new high, and then where it goes from there.
Yeah, a couple of different things that stand out to me with Ondas is short interest still very high, over 30% for this name. It does look like the stock has held on to those gains. I mean, up over 1,000% in the last year. It's
Right.
still holding on fairly well for a company that had such a huge, gigantic climb in such a short window. But then you look at what the analysts are saying, and it's so varied. I mean, we have a price target consensus at $17, and I'm looking at kind of the recent action, and you've got a couple of analysts saying sell, get out of the stock as soon as you can, and others still moving the stock quite a bit higher. And these are all within the last month or two.
Well, there is still some uncertainty, but the news story, the news cycle is pointing towards improving conditions and improving business. So I think we have coming down the pipe a pretty strong catalyst. Um, Another question that we want to see answered is, the catalyst to be strong enough to trigger short covering with 30% short interest. That will certainly play into the stock price rally. We get a good positive catalyst with strong orders, strong revenue, aiding the outlook for profitability. This stock could easily set a new all-time high within a matter of days or weeks of the report.
All right, very good. Speaking of report and earnings, we've got a couple of requests for you to cover AMPX earnings coming up later this week. So we'll have you cover that. I know you know that stock really well already. So also look up another question somebody had, LITE. This is one of those photonic stocks, I believe. They're wondering if you see a pullback coming, if there could be a chance to get into that stock anytime. And I don't know if that is going to apply to a lot of that sector or just that name specifically. But take a look at that one too while you're looking at AMPX. Okay, BBAI, Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, so this is the small cap, let's say alternative, if that's maybe the way to look at it, alternative to Palantir. It's what a lot of investors are hoping is the case here. This is a $2 billion company, so we're talking small cap, maybe leaking a little bit into the mid cap area, but still a very tiny company. And the hope is that the company is going to be competing with Palantir in the government area. They report earnings tomorrow morning. Right now, I think the question that I have here is the fact that the earnings, I don't think tomorrow are going to be that impressive. The revenue that they are expected to report is going to come in about 10% lower year over year. They're still going to be losing money on earnings per share. They're not expected to be profitable. I don't see a line of sight for them to be profitable anytime in the next 4 quarters. Revenue may start to improve by the end of the year, but to me, this is you're taking a risk here with BBAI. It's there's a dilution risk here because they just passed. They just passed. Let's see. What did I see here? Stockholders voted to raise the authorized common shares from 500 million to 1 billion. So there's some dilution risk going on. It's a SPAC stock when it came to market, so there's kind of a complex structure there. It's the stock's just not doing much. It's been rallying a little bit in the last month, but to me, this is still just a really risky stock if you're trying to think that it's going to compete with Palantir in its own backyard.
All right, very good look at that one. Chris, I'm going to have you look up a name that I don't think we've covered on a MarketBeat Monday before. It's TTM Technologies, TTMI. Take a look at that one. It looks like it's gone up quite a bit in the last year. All right, Thomas, let's move over. Let's do AMPX first. This is the comfort zone. It's the one that we've talked about plenty of times on here. What are you expecting for earnings this week?
Well, I think it's going to be a good one. There hasn't really been a lot of news since the last earnings report. There have been some follow-on orders and some new orders. So that kind of affirms the outlook for increasing revenue. I think we're going to see some signs of more orders and more follow-on orders with the release. Looking for more improved guidance, more news about its improving supply chain, but all expected to be in the report. In the chart price action, still a strong market, still with strong bullish momentum, still moving up within its new rally. certainly on track for some new highs. Right now, we're reaching kind of the top end of the analyst target range. But I think with a strong report, we'll see those targets being lifted again. Um, so to me, I'm still bullish on Emprius. Even if we get a pullback here, I would expect to see support being confirmed above $16, possibly above 17.50. Keep us in an uptrend in that upper channel, and keep us moving higher over time. Because long term, I think this company has a lot going for it, and it's going to continue to ramp its revenue and move from being this super micro cap company into being like a small cap and a mid cap and eventually a large cap company over time.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about those price targets for Emprius really quick before we move on. And that's just that I'm curious if any of these price targets are going to start trending higher. That's one thing that we haven't really seen is even like the most recent price targets on it, 22 is about the highest it goes. And that's not much different than where the price is today. Do you think that there is going to be more upside potential in the year ahead? Or will we really just have to wait for what comes out in that earnings and the guidance still ahead?
I think the earnings and the guidance will trigger some higher price targets because I think what we're going to see is affirmation of these growth trends. When the analysts start seeing that the company is really following through on strategy, it really does have increased capacity, it really is ramping production, it is really ramping revenue, then they'll start ramping their targets alongside of it.
All right, sounds good. Thomas, I'm going to have you. Oh, yeah, we have Light. I almost forgot about Light. Let's do Light next, really quick.
Right. So that's Lumentum. This is a company shifting from communications more towards data center, kind of, that same shift we were just talking about a minute ago. Um, so this company is focusing on like optical connections and data center connections, really amplifying its outlook. You see this in the stock price movement, moving up very strongly. We have momentum rising alongside of it. MACD momentum is converging with the highs, also in convergence with the analyst trends, which are leading to new highs well above $1,000. So, right now there is certainly risk of pulling back or consolidation, but based on the trends, it would be a buying opportunity. This market is strong and strengthening and being led to new highs.
So you think it's a buying opportunity even where it's at today?
Where it's at today, I would want to see more of a pullback because it is, right near new highs and near the top of its trending channel. So you're going to want to see some kind of a pullback, have it come back to some more recognizable support target before getting in.
All right, sounds good. All right, Thomas, I'm going to have you look at WING and FN next.
Wing.
Wing
And then which one?
and FN as the other one. Apparently, this one reported earnings and did pretty well at earnings. FN and Wing. Chris, let's move on. Did I give you one to look at before?
You did. TTMI.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. What is this company?
Yeah, I like this one. This is a they manufacture printed circuit boards and related electronic components. So they're right in the sweet spot right now as we look at where the AI trade's going. You've seen a renewed surge in the chip makers and in the chip stocks because a lot of people are realizing that it's the companies like TTMI that are going to be a big beneficiary. So stock is up huge in the last year. It's up over 520%. It's up over 127% this year. It just had a great earnings report last week where it beat on earnings by 9 cents a share. Beat on revenue. It's very strong. There looked like there might be some concern that the stock might be a little bit overbought, but when I looked at the chart, I saw it had a big red day on Friday, but it looks like today it held the line on that a little bit. So it's looking like it's trying to establish a higher base for the stock. The MACD looks really good. This is one it's pushing where that it's pushing the momentum, where it seems like it might be due for a pullback, but I'm not sure the pullback's going to happen as deeply as some investors think. This is one that I'm thinking might be worth chasing higher right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the other just quick numbers. Again, quick cold looks at these stocks. This one
Yeah.
has 95, almost 96% institutional ownership, very low short interest, not much
Right.
to speak of at all. And again, that
Yeah.
strong earnings report. This is a great chart. I'm also interested, why do you think a name like this hasn't come up very often? Is it just one that's maybe not on many people's radar? It's had such a great year, up over
Yeah.
500%, and it's not a name that has come across as a ticker that many people are interested in during a Market Beat Monday.
Yeah, I think it's just a name that's kind of flown under the radar. I mean, to be honest, this is the first time I'm hearing about it, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, it's got an interesting story. It's being backed right now by defense and aerospace contracts, which is going to be something that you would think that it's that's gonna help the stock as well. So and that short interest that you mentioned, Bridget, it's interesting because it's down to 5% of the float and it's taken a 32% tumble in the last month. So I'm suspecting that some of the short interest got wrung out, and that probably was one of the reasons why the stock has done so well in the last month, because it's up like 61% in the last month. That doesn't mean it can't go higher. It just means that maybe some of the easy gains are over, but it doesn't mean the stock can't grind higher.
All right, very good look at that one. I'm going to have you look at IREN simply because it's been a while since we've covered IREN or the Applied Digital story. I'm not sure. I think their earnings are coming up this week yet. So let's talk about those before earnings really quick. So IREN and Applied Digital. Thomas, let's have you look at Wing. What's going on with this company?
Well, Wing is generally a good company. I think they've got a very good growth strategy, and they usually make pretty decent profits. There are some headwinds right now with consumer trends. They've had to reduce guidance because of an expectation for poor comps. But at the same time, they're still growing by double digits because of their store count growth. So right now, the stock price is being punished for its near-term headwinds. I think the market is really discounting the long-term growth trajectory. Right now, the valuation is high up in the mid 30s, but longer term, it falls down to the low single digit range, which suggests multiple 100% upsides are possible. It's just going to be a matter of time. So consumers are going to shift back again eventually. Comps will come back. When that happens, the store count will be incredibly elevated. There'll be an accelerated rebound, both for profit and revenue. And I think when that starts happening, the share price will start responding positively. Positively.
Yeah, this is a name. I when it was Wing, I wasn't sure if it was actually Wingstop. I mean, the fries alone should help this stock. I would think they're pretty good there.
Right. Right. Everybody likes fried chicken.
It is. One thing that stood out just looking through this really quick is their consensus price target is pretty high. I mean, they've got a high estimate of 440. That seems like a wild outlier. But why do you think the stock price is down so much from those highs that it's been at?
Well, it's just because of the recent guidance. So with the comps in decline, that really raises some doubts about the forward outlook. Let me check into these consensus ratings and the analyst. So right. So again, the recent trend is lowered price targets, and that's weighing on the price action. The reductions are leading to around $200, which is that still provides some upside. So that's still like about a 30% upside. So analysts are still very bullish on the stock. They've had a reset of their sentiment. The market has overreacted, gone down to these extreme lows. It looks like we can see even lower lows. But in this situation, I think the lower it gets, the better the value becomes. So, I mean, I think you can start nibbling on this one now. If it goes lower, buy a little bit more. When it starts rebounding, start buying some more. And then as it continues to trend higher, just, keep buying it along the way.
All right, very good. Thomas, we've got the next one you have too is FN. What's going on with FN?
That's Fabrinet. They're an advanced electronics packager, which is really important for data centers and AI because a lot of the optics and photonics requires advanced packaging. So that's what's driving the stock price. What I see is a pretty strong rebound that began early last year, strong rally that kind of slowly consolidated, moved over and barely touched the long-term moving average and then rocketed higher again. So right now what I see is a market that's accelerating. Right now it's consolidating at an all-time high, kind of forming a flag pattern, which to me is a continuation signal that's backed up by convergent MACD, all supported by the robustly growing AI trade and pointing to higher highs.
All right, very good. I just wanted to look. Is this the earnings just came out today? It looks like, right?
I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that was. I think when somebody
No,
commented,
down
they said it was good
2%.
earnings for FN.
Right. So, and this says, right, growth, accelerating growth with outperformance and improved profitability. Positive analyst comments. So this here is a textbook buying opportunity. This stock has pulled back on positive news and bullish trends after a strong uptrend. This is just profit taking and a market kind of catching its breath. I would say this is a buying opportunity.
Yeah, looking at extended trading right now, the stock is down 10% in extended trading after a super positive report, which is interesting to see for that one. Thomas, thank you very much for covering that. And thank you for the super chat. I forgot to mention that earlier, but super chat is a great way. We've only got less than 10 minutes left. If you have a stock you really want us to cover, do a super chat really quick. Darren wants us to cover AXT. So that's your next one, Thomas. AXT. All right, Chris, Iron and APLD, what's going on?
Yeah, so both stocks looks like they're up both in the last month. The two stocks, it's kind of interesting when you look at their charts. Their charts are almost like identical to each other. Both have had very strong 1-year performances. Both are up strongly year to date, but both have had, they've been a little bit choppy here at the beginning of the year. For investors that don't really aren't familiar with the two stocks, real quickly, these are both former Bitcoin miners. They're now trying to become AI infrastructure giants. They're doing it different ways. Iron is renting out computer power. So they have a $9.7 billion deal with Microsoft. They're targeting about $3.7 billion in annual revenue by the end of the year. With Applied Digital, they're more like a landlord in terms of they buy the buildings and lease them to companies like CoreWeave, and that's one of their big customers right now. So it's one of those things where you could own both of these companies. They handle different aspects of that AI infrastructure trade, but they're and when like I said, when I look at the stock charts, they're both very, very similar to each other. And I think that might also have a little bit to do with the price of Bitcoin, because I know Iron funds a lot of its other business because of the revenue it makes from Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin went down, Iron stock went down a lot. And when Bitcoin was going up, Iron stock was going up pretty strongly. So
yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about with these ones is talking about earnings. So Iron, their earnings is coming up this week, but it looks like their latest earnings report was a big miss. Applied Digital, I remember them having a good earnings report that moved the stock back in February when they reported, or the one before this. And then this earnings, it does look like they had a miss when they reported in April. So is that all just basically the expenditures to make this thing happen for them? What do you think is behind? What should investors read into those earnings?
I'm trying to look here why Applied Digital may have missed on the bottom line so much. I don't know. My suspicion is, Bridget, that you're probably right. It probably has to do with the build out, because revenue they did fine. Revenue they were fine. It was just they missed on earnings. So
yeah, that might just be it with that. All right. Well, we've got just a couple of minutes left here, so I want to just look at a couple of other. I'm going to have you look at an interesting stock simply because it's one that we use here at MarketBeat. Twilio, TWLO, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but take a look at what's happening. It had a really big last week, up almost 35% in the last 5 days. So TWLO. Thomas, let's take a look at that super chat, AXT. Oh, you know what, Chris? I did forget. I missed a super chat. We had another one. Take a look at PNG before you look at Twilio. I'm sorry about that. I just saw it. PENG is another super chat. PNG. AXT, what is this company, Thomas?
Yeah, so AXTI stock. This is a play on compound semiconductors. They're making single and multi-compound semiconductor substrates, which are really important for data centers because they provide the higher power, higher speed, higher durability semiconductors for those data center applications, the AI, the AI applications that require such high power that we can't even really get the power to power the data centers. So right now, this market is really just advancing robustly on the outlook, for future need, because a lot of the products that they're making are focused on photonic and data transmission applications, which really had not yet been developed. Those data centers really had not yet been built. At the same time, the company's revenue and earnings are both, rocketing alongside the data center demand that is currently in place. So right now, it looks like a really strong stock. The market's certainly being driven by institutions. They've been accumulating at a very robust pace. They don't own yet 50% of the market cap, but they've been improving their ownership pretty substantially. Analysts are also very bullish. The only real big problem is that the market has really advanced beyond the analyst sentiment range. So we're kind of set up for a big pullback. However, in the technicals, with the volume ramping the way that it is and momentum as strong as it is, we could see a pretty vigorous, robust pullback. But I would expect to see this market snap back just as fast as it pulls back and then move up to set new highs.
Yeah, I do have to say, this might be the biggest 1 year performance I have ever seen, up over 7,000% in 1 year. That doesn't even seem like a real number. Um, that's wild to look at. So
Yeah.
yeah, a pullback does seem like it would make some kind of sense with this one. It also makes sense why the consensus price targets just aren't keeping up with that rapid rise that we've seen in this stock. I think the question is, can you get into a stock that's up 7,000% in a year? Is now a time to get in, or how much of a pullback would you need to be interested in getting into the stock right now?
Yeah, well, with this one, it's hard to really make an estimate on how big the pullback could be because of how volatile it has been. With the volume that's in place, it could be a pretty substantial pullback. But again, I think that this market is really strengthening. And so whatever pullback we get is going to hit a hard bottom potentially quickly, but it's going to rebound very strongly off that bottom. And one thing that we need to consider is that this company is really just in the early stages of what is seen as a very robust AI-driven revenue ramp, where this year we're looking at 70% growth, but potentially accelerating over the next couple of years and driving profitability at the same time.
Yeah, that one is such a crazy stock. Thank you for bringing that one up into MarketBeat Monday. I think that was fun to look at. Wild growth story for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss any other. Oh, we've got one other super chat to do. FLTCF. I don't know about this one. Let's see how big this one is, Thomas. FLTCF. That will be your last one to look at.
FLTCS.
Or CF, as in Frank.
Yeah.
FLTCF. Oh, goodness.
I got it. FLTCF.
Yes. Good work.
Photonic. Ooh, that's ugly.
All right. Chris, you are looking at PENG. What's this one?
Yeah, this is Penguin Solutions. They are I guess I call it, they're a system integrator in the AI story. So they don't, they're not involved in any of the specific component parts, but they actually assemble the pieces once you have them. So they're essential in that way for AI computing. Their largest claim to fame is that they built Meta's AI supercomputer. That's their so that's the story here. Earnings grew strongly. They've been raising their guidance. Stocks trading about 15% above consensus right now, but the consensus targets, some of them have been rising. It's still kind of a mixed picture for analysts right now. It's a quiet picks and shovel play, but the business, the revenue looks like it might be kind of lumpy because like even with the strong results they've had, their revenue was still lower on a year-over-year basis. But they could be. It's an interesting stock. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, somebody in the comments must be a regular MarketBeat reader as well. They said, Thomas, you just had an article on PNG. Did you?
I'm sorry.
Did you have an article on PENG recently?
On Penguin, yeah, I write about them pretty regularly. They're pretty well positioned in the AI and data center world because, like Chris was saying, they'd like to integrate technology. They can design and build AI factories for people, and so they're doing a lot of work with enterprises, helping them to kind of design and build and then operate their AI factories.
Okay, very good. Well, Chris, I'm gonna have you end on Twilio after we get to this other super chat. What is this? It sounded like you said it's a rough chart. What is this one?
Well, so Filtronic, they've got exposure to SpaceX. They make RF radio frequency products. There's some speculation about some orders coming in. The stock price action, up until today, and even today, it's fairly bullish with accelerating candles, moving to new highs. But then today, the market shot up by like 35, 45%. But didn't hold the highs. We closed with a very, very large shooting star doji, which to me is pointing to the end of a rally. This market's probably going to fall back pretty hard tomorrow. The question is how far it pulls back and how quickly it can recover. Assuming that the speculations are true, that there are some more big orders coming down the pipe from SpaceX, the rebound could be pretty quick. With the SpaceX IPO, coming up and space um, investment expected to expand, the company could be well positioned.
Thomas, really quick, is this one just FTC? Is that the ticker?
I've got FLTCF.
Yeah, I'm not getting it to show up on MarketBeat, but you gave us a quick
Yeah, it's
yeah,
an over-the-counter stock, so it might not be coming up on the platforms
on the platform.
charting.
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, at least Thomas gave you a good little overview on what's going on with that one. Okay, let's talk about Twilio. The reason I want to talk about this is one, it's a big
Yeah.
moving stock, but also this is the company. If you're a member of MarketBeat, we have SMS program where you can sign up for stock alerts on your favorite stocks, get an alert to your phone sent for an alert of when the stock is moving. You can text YouTube to 68285 and you can sign up for our SMS service brought to you by Twilio. And this stock has been going crazy. It seems like there's a lot of companies that are looking for this kind of SMS service. Why do you see Twilio stock moving?
Well, the initial thing is it's moving strongly because it posted great earnings last week. They beat it on the bottom line by 23 cents, and that was roughly about 30% year over year. And they had a similar story with revenue. So yeah, there's certainly demand for their products. It's for they do they offer text, voice, video, and voice capabilities to apps, and it seems like there's been a large increase in demand for their conversational AI tools. So, it's been strong growth. I think there is probably going to be a pullback happening here. It's made pretty strong growth here in the last week.
Yeah,
Usually
it's had such a strong earnings just in the last little bit, a big run up right away. But again, a name that we personally use at MarketBeat as a part of our company. So it was fun to see it come across in the chat today. Guys, I kept you a little bit late like I always do. We still didn't get to everything on the list. Chris and Thomas, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your expertise and giving us a cold look at some of these names. Thank you to everyone who joined us live today for the chat. Some great stocks in the chat today. Really great names. We couldn't get to all of them like usual. But again, hopefully you'll join us next week for MarketBeat Monday. We'll give another cold look for an hour, as many stock tickers as we can get to in an hour. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. I hope it's a great week ahead. As always, happy investing.